Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Nursing and Health Science webinar. We are glad that you're here with us today. Looks like we are getting some people into our webinar today. Looks like we've got about 11 of you, and I think we have around 35 people signed up. So we're just going to hang out here for a minute, but I want to introduce myself and give you a little bit of an overview of what's going to be happening today. My name is Quincy McHugh, and I oversee all of our campus visit programs. And of course, we wish that we could be visiting with you on our campus in person. But as you know, that is not doable right now. But we're really thankful for the technology that makes these webinars happen. So I'm glad that you are joining us today to learn more about nursing and health sciences. With me today, I have two really special people. We have Dr. Mike Ediger and Sean Tyson. They're going to introduce themselves to you in a little while, but we want you to get the most out of this webinar. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit about Zoom. Zoom is the platform that we are using to be able to communicate with you. And for those of you who have done a webinar with Whitworth before, this is new. This is not new information for you, but if this is your first virtual visit webinar, these three icons found at the bottom of your screen, whether you are on a phone, tablet, or computer, are going to help you get the most out of this next 45 minutes or so. The first function is the chat function, and we actually would like you to practice that right now. So in the chat function, we want to know who's here. Would you please type in your first and last name as well as your hometown? We would love to see where our attendees are from. Go ahead and start submitting those chats. Awesome, looks like we've got some people from Spokane, Fort Collins, Mercer Island, Hawaii, Kashmir, Bellingham, Oregon. That's awesome, you guys. Are so glad that you are here. And just so you know, anything that you submit in the chat or the Q&A function is only going to be visible by myself, Dr. Ediger, and Sean. We want to protect the information that you are sending to us. So please know that that is secure, and we're excited to answer your questions today. So let's talk about the Q&A function. We are going to be going through this presentation today, and Dr. Ediger and Sean, we're going to answer your questions at the end of this presentation. But if you have questions throughout the way, please feel free to submit those in the Q&A function right now, and we will be sure to get them answered at the end of the presentation. And then the last function is raising your hand. So let's practice that right now. Go ahead and raise your hand if this is your very first webinar you've done before. Awesome. Over half of you, this is your first webinar. Excellent. Let's see, where are our newbies? Or sorry, not our newbies, our experts. How many of you have done a webinar before? Go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, about 10 out of the 30 of you have done this before. Well, regardless, we are glad you're here. I hope you get a lot out of this presentation. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Sean. Sean, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Quincy. We're really excited for today and the chance to just get your questions answered about nursing and health science. So really, I'm going to be in the background. Mostly you're going to be hearing from Dr. Mike Ediger, who will introduce himself in a second. But like Quincy said, feel free to throw any questions you have into the Q&A box along the way, and then we will go over anything that we didn't get to in the presentation at the end, and then talk about options for follow up afterwards with email or social media or whatnot, because we really want to get your questions answered. So with that, Dr. Mike, can you just introduce yourself, give a little background, and then we'll get rolling.
Yeah, hey, my name's Mike Ediger, and I want everyone to call me Mike. Don't worry about the doctor portion of it. This is pretty fun. This is my first time doing this formally, so I'm excited. And I think it's awesome that we've got people from so many different places that are here. That's just fantastic. And it is pretty cool to be able to have this technology that we can sit here and visit with all of you who are all over the country. So that's pretty cool. Let's see, just a couple words about myself so you know who I am. This is either my 21st or 22nd year at Whitworth. I've lost track a little bit. I am the chair of health sciences, and I'm also the nursing coordinator. So you can ask questions today about health sciences in general, about any of our 4 majors that I'll tell you about, and about nursing. We'll share some information about that in just a couple minutes. But when we're done, ask questions about anything that you want. So yeah, just call me Mike and ask whatever you want to know.
Perfect. And then we're going to do a really quick poll for everybody to ask what programs you're interested in. And it is multiple choice. So this should be popping up on your screen right now. I'll give you a few seconds. But what programs are you interested in? Is it nursing, community health, health sciences? And again, like Mike mentioned, we're going to cover all of that during the presentation, but just kind of want to get an idea. So it looks like we got about 10 people interested in nursing, 10, 11, a couple of you in community health, and then about 16 in health sciences. So thanks for participating in that. And I'll share these results with you right quick so you can just see where everybody's at. We got a nice mixture in the webinar today. So
cool.
With that, we're going to get rolling. We want to just share with you guys a quick video that gives a brief overview of the health science department.
Learning about health science is important because most of the chronic diseases that we currently are faced with in our country and across the world are largely preventable with good health, whether that be some combination of diet and exercise. So there's a lot of benefit that can come from having a good
Sorry about that. Not sure what happened there.
good health, whether that be some combination of diet and exercise. So there's a lot of benefit that can come from having a good foundation of understanding in the various facets of health and wellness.
Learning about health science is really important because God gave us bodies. How they work, how well they work, when they don't work, all of that affects our ability to live out our missions. So if we don't understand how they work, we can't engage with others.
One of the things that may surprise people is how much fun we have. We get to study exercise, we get to study nutrition, we study biomechanics, and we don't just study theory, we study the application of all of these disciplines. So we get to move, and we get to cook, and we get to eat, and we get to lift weights, and we get to exercise and go for walks, and talk about how these issues impact all of us every single day.
They also, unusually so, get to participate in original research, which I think is really unusual for students at the undergraduate health science level.
I would describe the atmosphere of our department as a family. We genuinely care about one another. We care about our students in such a way that you can see that investment in everyone's lives.
One of the things that's great about the health science department is that we have service learning requirements for students where they get to go out into the community and practice, sharing their experience and knowledge, and also just help to some of these community partners that we have.
Our graduates are going on to graduate and professional programs all over the country, from medicine and pharmacy and optometry and dentistry to physical therapy, physician assistant, occupational therapy.
I think one thing that really sets our alumni apart is their ability to think about health and healthcare and various aspects of wellness in a big picture view. We get reports back from employers all the time talking about how they love hiring Whitworth grads.
We hope that a health science graduate doesn't simply look at a client or a patient as somebody with signs and symptoms. We want them to truly see the person, to recognize their dignity and their value and their worth, but also understand the human condition and what went into creating either the disease and dysfunction or what can help create health and wellness in that person.
Excellent. So Mike, you want to take it away?
That was pretty cool. That's fun. Okay, so a little bit about our department, I guess. Health Sciences was actually created about 12 years ago because We wanted an academic home at Whitworth for people that wanted to study the human body and health and wellness. We didn't want it to be a pre-req anything, meaning it's not a pre-med degree, it's not a pre-PT degree, it's not any of that. However, we do a great job preparing students to go to all of those programs, if that makes sense. And the reason I say that is because a lot of you may not even know what you want to do 4, 5, 6 years from now. And so identifying a major simply based on where you think you want to end up 4 or 5 years from now is not something we want to do. So we wanted a department that would equip its graduates to honor God, follow Christ, and serve humanity through studying the human body and its relationship to health and wellness. What you do with that afterwards doesn't even need to be known right now. There's so many things that you can do with it. And our graduates are going on and doing lots of different things. So let me tell you about the degrees that we have. First one, I saw there were a number of people interested in our community health degree. Our community health degree, first of all, I should say the first couple years in our nursing, health science, and community health are very similar. So if you don't know what you want to do right now, that's totally fine. If all you know is that you want to study the human body and health and wellness, great. Health sciences is for you. The first 2 years is very, very similar for all 3 of these degrees: nursing, health science, and community health. It's the second 2 years where you really kind of start to specialize. So community health is really it's more social science based. So it's more health promotion, health policy, drugs and society, sex and society, health psychology, understanding what creates healthy communities, and trying to work on the promotion, proactive, preventative side of health and wellness. The BS in health science is typically the route that our students who want to go into health careers, the typical medicine or allied health careers. So where the BA in community health is maybe more social science focused, the BS in health science is more natural science focused. And our graduates are doing all of the things that you heard in the video. They're going from med school to pharmacy, optometry, dentistry, PT, PA, OT. Physical therapy is probably the #1 postgraduate school that our students go on to, but they go, over the last 5 years, we've had people go into every one of those programs that I just mentioned, as well as programs like exercise physiology, strength and conditioning, master's degrees in public health, other academic programs. Our MS, our master's degree in athletic training, is great. It used to be an undergraduate degree here. Now it's a master's degree. And because we've switched, we actually have a 3-2 program that you can partake in. Meaning, if you come to Whitworth as a freshman and know that you want to go into athletic training, you can get on a track where you, in 3 years, your first 3 years, you complete all your prereqs and gen eds. And in your 4th year, you start our master's degree. And after that 4th year, you get bachelor's degree. And then after the 5th year, you complete your master's degree. So you can do both here, save an entire year of your education, and do it in an accelerated format. Finally is our nursing program. And I have to give you just a 30 kind of second historical story about this program so you can understand what our consortium is. In the 60s, there was a nursing shortage in the region. And so 3 schools, actually 4 at the time, but there's only 3 left, came together to create the Intercollegiate College of Nursing. And that was Washington State University, Eastern Washington University, and Whitworth. About 10 years ago, they changed the name, and it's always been here in Spokane, but they changed the name and moved it down to the River Point campus, which is downtown. And it's now called the Washington State University College of Nursing. But we are still founding consortium members. What that means is, typically, you come to Whitworth for 2 years and create your nursing, or take your nursing prereqs in the first 2 years, and then do your nursing education at the College of Nursing, which is just 5 miles away. And yet you are still a Whitworth student the entire time. You're actually considered dual enrolled. And so that's a 4-year Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And I think in a couple minutes, we have some more details about that. But those are the 4 primary degrees. Now I'm gonna, Sean, I hope it's okay. I'm gonna drop a quick little, I don't know, advertisement for 2 new programs that are coming online that it's not being publicized yet, but we are starting a doctoral program in occupational therapy in the fall of 22 and a doctoral program in physical therapy in either the fall of 22 or the fall of 23. We're still working on the details of that. But we've hired our directors for both of those programs, and there will potentially be an accelerated route to get into those programs as well. So more to come on that in probably the next 9 to 12 months, but that's really exciting. Along with that, we're building an entirely new facility for all of health sciences, and that will house all of our undergraduate, our master's degree, and our doctoral program. So that's really exciting. This slide is one of my favorite slides, and I will try very hard not to spend the entire hour on this slide. This is just a little bit about the philosophy of our department. Our department in all of our classes will kind of address some aspects of these points right here. And so I'm just going to touch on a couple of them just to give you an idea of some of the things that we talk about in health sciences. So we start from your freshman year talking about the idea of being proactive versus reactive. Proactive health is incredibly important. We can prevent, in fact, 4 of the leading modifiable risk factors for premature death and disease are all things that we can prevent and things that we can, to a great extent, control. So being proactive about health is incredibly important. But we also need to be able to be reactive, meaning we need to have people who understand disease and dysfunction and how to intervene when people need that. And so that's why a lot of our students will go on to become physical therapists or occupational therapists or physician assistants or doctors or nurses, people who are there when we need to react and intervene. So both sides of that equation are incredibly important to understand. Our national health agenda, we talk about how is our country going to become healthy from our freshman year all the way to our senior year. I introduce you to our national health agenda in a class that I teach our freshman year called Foundations of Health Science. And by your senior year, you have to give a presentation on what role are you going to play in creating a healthier country. If we just leave the health of our country up to our government or up to doctors, we're never going to get there. We need everybody to understand what our agenda is and how each of you can play a role in creating a healthier country. Lifestyle choices. Again, the leading modifiable risk factors for premature death and disease are the things that I choose to do, whether or not I choose to exercise, how much and the type of food I choose to eat, whether or not I use tobacco and alcohol. Those things are lifestyle choices that I make and that each one of us make every single day. But the next part of that equation is social determinants of health. The choices that I make every single day are often determined by the choices that I have available. And so we don't all make the same choices because we don't grow up in the same families. We don't grow up in the same communities. We don't grow up in the same socioeconomic status. We have different cultural backgrounds. We have different religious or faith backgrounds. All of those things are called social determinants, things that determine the options that we have and therefore the choices that we make every single day. So we've got to look at health from both sides of that equation. The idea of exercise and nutrition, diversity, the role that both natural science and social science plays, all of those go into the science of health. It's what I love about our department. We get to talk about all of those things. And then the last thing there is we don't want you to just know theory. We want you to be able to apply that. And so you saw evidence of that in our videos. The last thing I think I'll say, it's not on here, but well, I think we talk about mission a little bit later on, don't we, Sean? I forget what slides we've got. Anyway, I'll say one more thing about mission in just a couple minutes. Nursing, a number of you are interested in nursing, so I want to just identify a few specific things because our nursing program is very different than our other degrees because of the fact that we're in that consortium. It is a limited enrollment program, meaning just because you're accepted at Whitworth doesn't mean you're also accepted into the nursing program. If you are going to come here and be on the 2-2 plan, meaning you're at Whitworth for 2 years and then in the College of Nursing for 2 years, you will generally apply in the fall of your sophomore year to start in the fall of your junior year. However, we do start students twice a year. So we have a fall start and a spring start, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. But it is limited enrollment. On average, this isn't a promise going forward, but over the last 8 or 9 years, our fall acceptance numbers are about 70%, and our spring acceptance numbers are about 90 to 100%, to be honest with you. So spring is much higher. It is considered a dual enrollment, meaning you are fully a Whitworth student the entire time you're in the program. You are fully, you have all the rights and privileges of all the students, and here's why that's really important, even when you're at the College of Nursing. So dual enrollment means you're fully a WSU student and fully a Whitworth student at the same time, but you're only paying tuition to WSU. Dual enrollment is incredibly important because you will come to Whitworth for those first 2 years, and you will make friends who will ultimately be your roommates, and they might be an education major or a business major or a health science or community health major. And you're going to want to still room with them or get an apartment with them. You're going to want to go work out with them in the rec center or go to basketball games and football games. Because you're dual enrolled and you're fully a Whitworth student, you get to do all of that and to partake in all of those activities, even while you're at the College of Nursing paying tuition to WSU. The campus is only 5 miles away. We'll give you a free bus pass. You can catch the bus on campus, ride it down to your classes, and come back to campus. You can live on, or most of our students live near campus. So dual enrollment is a real benefit to you. Because you are paying tuition to WSU while you're at the College of Nursing, Whitworth aid is not transferable, meaning any aid that Whitworth gives you in those first couple years you're at Whitworth, you lose that when you go to WSU. Now, this is looking at last year, so just to give you an idea, and by the way, this is not federal aid, these are not loans, this is Whitworth free money. Whitworth tuition, I don't remember what it was something like $42,000 a year or something like that last year, Sean. For Washington residents, Whitworth WSU tuition was $10,500 last year. For out of state, it was $22,000. So even when you lose Whitworth aid, WSU is still less than half the cost of Whitworth. So for most students, it ends up being cheaper or very comparable to what it is when you're at Whitworth. If you're a Washington resident, it's generally significantly cheaper.
Hey, Mike, can I jump in with a question we actually had that's really applicable now? So it does ask about WUI, if WUI counts. Can you just speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So WUI is a scholarship program that only counts if you start at Washington State as a freshman. So you can't come to Whitworth for 2 years, and then when you go to WSU, partake in WUI. So that does not apply to us. It's a good question.
That's great. Yeah, and then I think maybe explaining a little more on that for out-of-state students who are on this call, how that maybe typically looks. I know it's going to be situational for different families, but how that out-of-state might look.
Yeah, so it actually doesn't really change much of anything except the price tag. And what I mean by that is Whitworth doesn't charge different tuition whether you come from in-state or out-of-state. We just have a single cost regardless of where you live. WSU does. So if you are a Washington resident, last year tuition only was $10,500. If you're an out-of-state resident, it was $22,000 or something like that. So that just goes into your financial aid package, and FAFSA is a part of that. And so that will just play a role in determining how much federal aid you qualify or how many Pell Grants or things like that. All of that still applies. The only change is in Whitworth-sponsored aid. That does not transfer. So is that what you were asking, Sean?
It does, yeah. And we have questions about, like, will I lose College Bound if I'm dual enrolled? But since College Bound is a Washington State scholarship, then that would still apply, correct?
Absolutely. Anything that is not Whitworth-sponsored, whether it's state-sponsored, whether it's from your high school, Kiwanis Club, Daughters of the American Revolution, I don't know, what are some of those other scholarships that people have? That kind of thing goes with you. And here's the other thing. Last year when I checked, 40% of our students were receiving aid from WSU, and the minimum was $2,000. And so almost half of our students, once you go to WSU, will now qualify for WSU aid, and about half of our students are receiving that. And especially if you're in state and tuition is only $10,500 for the entire year, and the minimum that our students are getting is $2,000, that takes a big chunk out of that right there. So there are lots of aid opportunities still once you're at the College of Nursing.
Awesome. Great.
Okay, so a few more specifics about the nursing program. We start students twice a year, so there's a fall cohort start and a spring cohort start. And this is what it means. I tell students every year, you apply when you're ready. You see the math there. A traditional or kind of a typical BSN degree is 2 years at Whitworth and 2 years at WSU. But every single year, and I mean this sincerely, every year I have people in our cohort that are applying after 2 years, after 2.5 years, after 3 years, after 3.5 years, and I have about a half a dozen people a year who will apply after getting a 4-year degree at Whitworth. So people will choose to stay longer for a number of reasons. Maybe they want to get a minor, and you don't actually have time to get a minor in just those first 2 years. So maybe they want to stay an extra semester and kind of weave that minor in along the way as they're taking their other gen eds and prereqs. Maybe they want to study abroad. Maybe they want to stay for a fall season. I've had a couple soccer players who wanted to stay for their fall junior season and then start at the College of Nursing in the spring. So there's a variety of reasons. Or maybe you didn't get in that first application, and so we just have you reapply in the next cohort, and so therefore you're starting after 2.5 years. The bottom line is it's incredibly flexible. I will be your academic advisor the entire time you're here, and typically the decision when to apply is made by you and I having conversations just during our regular advising every semester. We create a plan, a 2-year plan or a 2.5 or a 3-year plan, and we'll just create a plan that works for you. I think we covered all the rest of that. Yeah, here's the nursing application process. There are 6 criteria that they look at. The first one is your nursing prereq GPA. So your grades in nursing prereq classes that I will help you look at when you're here. Your cumulative GPA is your Whitworth GPA only. Now, some of you have done Running Start, some of you have done some transfer classes. Your cumulative GPA is Whitworth only. What you did before you got here, we don't transfer in. But your nursing prereq GPA, so if you took psych or chemistry or stats or nutrition somewhere else, I do bring that GPA in regardless of where you took it. You have to take a TEAS test. That stands for the Test of Essential Academic Skills. That's just kind of like taking the SATs all over again. So I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about that. But that's a 4-hour online test that I proctor about 6 times a year. There's an interview, and we will prepare you for that interview. I bring current nursing students back to Whitworth a couple times a year, and they do peer mentoring or interview prep with you. There's 50 hours of healthcare experience that you need to complete. I have to approve that. So that is maybe taking a CNA course, which is not required. The CNA course isn't required. You can volunteer in a hospital or in a clinic or a long-term care facility. Just make sure you check with me first so that I approve that. There are some things that people think is healthcare, like being a lifeguard, those types of things, and we don't typically approve that. And then there's an essay that you have to write. And again, I will help you with that essay. You don't typically write that until the fall term of your sophomore year, but I will help you with that. And our writing center on campus will help you with that as well. I've told them the things that we're looking for, and they will work with you on that. Here's why I think Whitworth, why I love being at Whitworth. And again, I've been here for over 20 years. Number one, our mission is more than words. This is back to the entire department right now. I truly believe that in both our mind and heart mission, and then also our mission of equipping graduates to honor God, follow Christ, and serve humanity. I want you to be mind smart. I want our content, I want you to know it well, and I want you to be very proficient at it. But I also want that content to impact your heart somewhere. I used to tell students in my community health class, before you can care about the health of an entire community, you first have to care about every single individual in that community. And we talk about the story of the Good Samaritan. So our mission is more than just words. You saw in the video, students are known. I love it when I go have lunch with students in the hub and I see other faculty sitting around having students or going for walks on campus. I love the connections that we make with students. Without those connections, or I should say with those connections, that's how we're able to talk to you about your gifts and talents and abilities and where it might fit and what professions might be good options for you. So I love that aspect of being at Whitworth and the environment. We are liberal arts based, meaning we want you to think well and we want you to write well and we want you to be able to think outside the box. And we think our general education classes are not just requirements that you have to check off, but they really create a foundation for you to take with you wherever you're going. Our alumni are going to the top programs all over the country in all of those programs that I talked about earlier. And then the final thing is there's more to the next 4 years than just a degree. 50% of my nursing majors will never apply to nursing school. And that's not because they don't make it. They come here and they fall in love with psychology or community health or health science and will move into that. We get 125 freshmen a year who think they're going to be doctors, and only on average 17 or somewhere in that neighborhood will ever apply. So picking a school based on the degree that you think you want to get and based on the job that you think you want to get is great and is important, but there's way more to it than that. I think fit is more important than degree. And so pick a school that is a good fit for you. And that goes back up to all of those things right above, as well as the environment and all of those other things. So there's more to the next 4 years than just getting a degree. Pick a school that will allow you to thrive both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And I think you'll be set.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike, for that great info. So I know we're a little bit over the time we had allotted. I hope you guys can stick around. If you can't, if you asked a question in the chat, we're going to get to those here in a second. If you can't stick around, we have both our admissions department email address and Mike's email address as well. So for questions, please contact your admissions counselor or Mike directly, and we'd be able to help answer those. But now throw some questions in the Q&A. If you can stick around, we're going to answer those now, Mike. So yeah. Can health science be applied to personal training?
Absolutely. And it's actually the ideal degree for that. We have 5 classes. There are lots of others, but you can actually be qualified to sit for the national certification that's called Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, which is it's the highest kind of gold standard credential for strength and conditioning in the country. It's higher than any personal training credential. You can actually sit for that exam in your final semester of your senior year if you take Anat and Phys 1 and 2, exercise physiology, structural mechanical kinesiology, and principles of conditioning and nutrition. And we have people that do that. The strength and conditioning coach for Virginia's basketball team a couple of years ago was one of our graduates. And now he's at Gonzaga and working with all their sports. We have people who are working as personal trainers all over town and all over the region. So yes, it absolutely will work.
Awesome. A grade related question here. Do you know the lowest grade you can receive in a prereq class in order to still be eligible to be accepted into the program? And I'm assuming they're talking about nursing.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the lowest grade is a C. But I strongly recommend if you get a C in any of your prereqs, you really need to retake it. You really need a B- or better, not just for your prereq GPA, but also because they look at the individual grades in all of your prereq classes. That's for nursing. I'm guessing that's what the question was.
Yeah, I believe so. Here we go. So I do running start and have most of my nursing prereqs done. What does that look like for going into Whitworth for a first year, or do I have to do those 2 years? And I think that makes sense for even like transfer students who come in as well. What does their process look like?
Right. So for nursing, you have to complete 32 credits at Whitworth. We consider that a residency. You've got to complete 32 credits before you can go into the College of Nursing. So you don't have to do the 2 years. What I would recommend, because you're not guaranteed admittance into the nursing program, if you, worst case scenario, you don't get in, would you still complete a 4-year degree at Whitworth? And if you would, let's put you on that track from day one. So in that year when you're completing your residency, you're working towards a 4-year degree. If you get into the College of Nursing, after that year, great, you're on your way for the nursing degree. If you don't, you're still on track for completing a 4-year degree.
Fantastic.
And I can help you with that during our advising.
Perfect. In what ways does a pre-medicine track coincide with a health science degree?
It's a good question. So in some ways, this is a little bit semantics, and forgive me, there is no such thing as a pre-med, like at Whitworth, we don't have a pre-med major. So the best major for you to go to med school is the one that you're most interested in. Actually, I could say that's the best degree for any of graduate professional programs.
Yeah.
So if you are an incoming freshman, we would put you, and you say you want to do pre-med, we would put you in biology and chemistry and maybe calc if you want to, if you think that you can do all 3 of those. And otherwise, we'd wait on calc. But after that first year, if you love biology, great, go be a biology major. If you love chemistry, great, go be a chemistry major. If you want to study the human body and health and wellness and all the things that I talked about today, great, be a health science major. And all of your pre-med prereqs can be woven into any of those 3 degrees. So absolutely, health science is a great degree for pre-med, but the best degree for you is the one that you're most interested in.
Nice. For nursing, can a minor be completed in 2 years before going, like transferring into the WSU nursing program?
No, not unless you transfer in some other classes that give you some open spaces. So to complete a minor, you generally need 5 classes in a particular area, just in general. So let's pick psychology, just as an example. You, as a nursing major in those first 2 years, you really only have room for 2 general elective classes that could be applied towards that an elective. You will already take intro to psych and developmental psych. So in some ways, you're halfway there. But you would still need 3 more classes, and you only have room for probably 2 electives. That's the easiest one. In general, though, for most minors, you need to add 1 additional semester. And knowing that early on will help me weave those classes 1 per semester, freshman, sophomore. So 2 in your freshman year, 2 in your sophomore year, 1 in that 5th semester, and that will typically get it done.
Great. You mentioned sports earlier, Mike, like maybe staying late before you go to the nursing, to finish the season. Are you still eligible to play sports at Whitworth if you are dual enrolled, if you're in the nursing program?
Absolutely. You are fully a Whitworth student to all 4 years. I have had people play on varsity sports all 4 years, but it's not easy. So I've had a tennis player go all 4 years. I've had volleyball and soccer go all 4 years. What most people do is they don't play in their junior year or their first year in the nursing program. It's just really difficult. And also sometimes clinicals are at the same time as practice, and coaches don't always love it when you're missing 1 or 2 practices a week. So most people will take their junior year off, and then many will come back and play their senior year. Now, sometimes, this is just an example, I had 2 soccer players a couple years ago. They both took junior year off. They both came back in their senior year. One kept playing and did fine. One, after 2 weeks of fall training camp, stopped and just couldn't do both. I had same thing with softball a couple years ago. I had 2 all-conference softball players. They both took their junior year off, and one came back and played in their senior year and one didn't. So it's very individualized based on how you can manage your time and how much you can do. And then it's also in consultation with your coach. Are they willing to be flexible if you miss some practices? But yes, you are fully a Whitworth student. You can do that.
Great. And Mike, I just want to check with you on your time here. Are we good to keep rolling through these questions?
Good. This is good. This is good stuff. So
fantastic. So we're going to keep going. Everybody stay on the webinar. These are really great questions. This one, can you keep scholarships only for Christian colleges if you transfer to WSU to be in the nursing program? And I'm going to say it's probably up to those scholarship committees, right? Like if you're getting a scholarship from your church or from an organization, like it's really up to them.
Totally, but there's nothing prohibitive from you taking that to WSU. And students do that all the time. But yeah, I think you're right. It's based on them. If it's only geared for Whitworth or for a Presbyterian school, then it might be an issue. But WSU has there's nothing about going to WSU that they say you can't bring those with you.
Awesome, thank you. How large are these programs? I know health science is one of our largest majors, but what about nursing, a typical size of like a cohort?
Yeah, a cohort is in the low 80s typically. So we'll have on average just like 82 or something start in the fall and 82 in the spring. But that's based up out of all the consortiums and travel or transfer students. So in Whitworth, in the fall, we may have 15 to 17 people go in the fall and then 10 to 14 in the spring. But overall, it's about 82 per cohort.
Great. What classes do you recommend usually for a freshman during their first year majoring in health science?
Yeah, good question. So if possible, we like Gen Bio and we like Gen Chem, and then my class, Foundations of Health Science and Personal Health. So those are the 4 that we would love you to take.
Awesome.
And by the way, I'm not sure if people know this, we will have an advisor help you register in the summer. And as long as you tell them that you're interested in health sciences, they will recommend bio and chem, Foundations of Health Science and Personal Health. Now, if you're nursing, it's different. I register all nursing majors. So if you're a nursing major, tell them that you want to register with Mike and I'll get you on track.
Perfect. What percentage of Whitworth students who apply to PA school are admitted to PA school?
Ooh, that's a good question, but it's a really, really hard question. And here's the reason it's hard. Some of our students do go directly into PA school after they graduate. Others will take 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 years where they're working as an EMT or working as a CNA, or they're being a scribe. And so we actually don't have specific stats on the acceptance rate. What I will tell you is that we have students that are getting into the top programs all over the country, and they're also getting options, meaning they will get accepted into 3 or 4 out of 7 or 8 that they apply. PT is the same way. The highest I've ever had is I had somebody who was accepted into 13 out of the 13 programs that they applied to. But that's not a promise or a guarantee. If you're a 2.8 student, you're going to struggle to get in. So just coming to Whitworth doesn't guarantee that you'll get in. But our students who are well qualified are getting into programs, the top programs all over the country.
Great. Somebody who already has their CNA, would they have to do the 50 hours again?
They wouldn't, as long as it was in the last 3 or so years. They don't typically, WSU doesn't typically want to do, or let's say it was 5 years ago, but you're still using it, then that will count. Typically, they want post-high school experience, but I'm the one who approves it, and a CNA class is great. As long as it's relatively recent within the last 3 or 4 years, or if it was longer than that and you're still using it, then that would be fine.
Great. A few questions here about the NCLEX, so I'm just going to combine them.
Yeah.
So for nursing, am I allowed to take the NCLEX in California? And if not, and I take it in Washington, will it transfer to California? And also on that note, what's maybe our typical passing rate on the NCLEX?
It is a great question. Although I'm not, so don't anybody quote me on this because I'm guessing, okay? The NCLEX is a national exam. And so my understanding is it's not state specific. So the NCLEX is, you can take it wherever you want, I believe. And you take that after you graduate with your BSN. So you typically graduate with your nursing degree and then you take it 1 to 3 or 4 months later, depending on when you want to schedule it. But I think you can take that anywhere. The pass rate, I don't know, because they don't typically break it down by school. WSU's last I saw was like 89%, but the last time they did break it down, and again, don't quote me on this because this was just a couple years ago, Whitworth's passing rate was 94%, but they're not breaking it down that way anymore. So I actually couldn't tell you what a Whitworth specific rate was.
Thank you. And on that note, I got one here. Once you are in the program, do you have to take the exit exam before you sit for your NCLEX?
That I don't know. I don't know what the exit exam is, to be honest.
So if you asked that question, it was sent in anonymously. If you could email admissions or
email me directly, and I'll with a little bit of detail, and I'll see what I can find out.
Break it down. Great. For students bringing in credits from AP classes, does WSU accept those if you're planning to do enroll?
No, and this is a really good question for nursing, health science, for everybody. Whitworth accepts AP credits as long as you got the scores, and you can go on our website and just type in AP credit, and you can see what the scores are. If it is a prereq for anything, if it's a prereq for nursing school, for PA school, for PT school, we can't transfer it in. You need a letter grade on a college transcript. So that's a hard thing for me to advise how to do it. What I would tell my own daughter is, if you're going into health sciences, don't transfer in AP credit if it's a biology, or if it's a chemistry, or if it's stats, anything math or science related, or even psychology. AP credits won't count if it's a prereq. You need a letter grade on a college transcript.
Great, thank you. For nursing, what hospitals do you use for clinicals when attending WSU?
A lot, to be honest with you. Everything from Kootenai and Coeur d'Alene, all of the hospitals in the region here, and even on the west side. We have students at Swedish and at UW Medical Center and at all the major hospitals. So they do them all over.
Great. What could I expect as a transfer student wanting to get my BS in health science with the goal of becoming a pediatrician? So like schedule, internships like that, specifically the student's a transfer student.
That's a little bit of a difficult question to answer. Internships, we only require one 40-hour internship, and you can do that anytime. A lot of students like to do them over the summer. The only downside to that is you have to pay for the credit over the summer. But in terms of schedule, it really depends on what classes you transfer in. So if you're taking the traditional kind of pre-med classes and health science classes, then you're in XPhys, you're in OChem, you're in biochem, you're in genetics. You're still taking our classes, which are, the nutrition and the community health and things like that as well. So that would be more, I think, kind of a one-on-one conversation after I see transfer equivalency report, and we could do a kind of an academic plan.
Great. Quick one, is there a dual enrollment fee for doing the nursing program?
Yeah, there is. It's pretty small. It's a couple $100. I can't remember exactly what it is specifically, but it's a couple $100. It's not crazy. But what it does is it gives you the right to use the rec center and to use the library and the computer lab and the printing and go to football games and basketball games, all of those types of things. You can't do that if you're paying tuition to WSU without a dual enrollment fee of some sort.
Yeah. And in general, for really all students, Whitworth, how many classes do you take in a typical semester if you're in health science or nursing or community health? And how many credits typically are you seeing your students take?
Yeah, a full load is 12 to 16 credits. Our students try and average about 15 in the semester. So if they were 3 credit classes each, that would be 5 credits a semester. Ours are not all 3 credits. Many science classes are 4 credits. So if you're taking 3 4-credit classes, that would be 3 credits, and then 1 additional 3-credit class, that would be 15. Some are taking 2 science classes and then 2 3-credit classes. So it's anywhere from 4 to 5 classes a semester.
Awesome. how many, these two are pretty related. So how many people with a health science degree move on to med school? And then also, is a BS in health science, would that be a good major for someone who wants to go into neuroscience?
Well, the second one is a BS, the correct major for somebody who wants to study neuroscience. I'm not being facetious when I say this, so please forgive me. The best major is the one that you're the most interested in. I really believe that. You actually, in theory, could go the psychology route to some extent. In fact, the person who teaches we have neuroscience classes out of psychology and out of biology. You could go biology route. You absolutely could do health sciences and then take both psych and biology classes, and we would count them towards our major. So you really can do whatever works for you. The question about how many people move, what was the second one? How many people go to med school?
To med school, yeah, through after health science.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think if Whitworth does on average about 15 a year, 12 to 15 a year, I think is what the number is. Sean, maybe you know. I would say about 3 to 4 of those are health science. They come from health science, biology, chemistry, Spanish. I can't even remember some of the other programs that they come from. So yeah, health science, we only have 3 to 5 a year, probably.
Awesome. How many days would you be going to clinical when you're in nursing school?
Typically 1, unless, I think there's a semester where you have 2, and then when you're a senior for your practicum, it's full-time. You're not taking classes. There's an 8-week section where you're just doing it full-time. But typically it's 1 day a week, I believe. And then you've got clinical simulation other days, but actually going to the hospital or going to the clinic that you're working in, it's only 1 day a week.
Awesome. And then last question here is, what does an average day in a health science class look like? I know you mentioned you guys do a lot of things. You said cooking even and eating, but like what's a typical day look like?
Oh, that's such a hard question to answer because it kind of depends on what year you are. The cool thing about our major, though, is how integrated it is. A typical day, you might take a health policy class and then go to a health psychology class and then be in a structural and mechanical class where you're in a lab, or I don't know. I'm not sure I know how to articulate what a typical day is. A lot of our students, once you're a junior, senior, like to do dissection as a TA, like to be a TA in some of our other classes. So a lot of them do that. Gosh, I'm not sure I have a great answer for what is a typical class look like.
Sounds like a lot of variety, kind of depending on their outcome.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's really cool about our major is it is quite a variety with other departments and other classes, and you're not just doing one thing every day.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. And I know we can't give you a round of applause, but maybe like hand raisings or whatnot, maybe that will show you appreciation. But
this has been fun.
Great questions
doing this,
everybody. And I think Quincy's going to hop back in and give us a few closing notes.
Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. I have to say this has been the webinar with the most, I think, involvement and interaction. So kudos to you. Just a couple things as we are closing out. We know that connection is really important to you, and we highly encourage you to connect with us via social media. If you're not already, we actually have our own Whitworth University app that you can download from the App Store. And then, of course, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter. We are going to be doing some Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives with current students for you to be able to get some of your questions answered by people who are living the experience that you were thinking of getting into as a Whitworth student. But we also have a few other webinars coming up, including residence hall tours, financial aid presentations. So if you want to understand a little bit more about how to cover what you owe, if you are an admitted student and you've received your financial aid award, please go to our virtual visit page to sign up for those webinars. Other than that, you guys, we are so thankful to Mike and Sean for being with us today. We hope you learned a lot. And again, don't hesitate to contact any of us if you have questions from here on out. We wish you the best. Go Pirates, and we hope to see you on the web. Bye, you guys.